and said, you know, they're going to be eligible for up to 3 to 4 years, I think 3 years for sure, on filing back tax, you know, for earned income tax credits. They could get $18,000 to $24,000 on money that they were here making illegally and didn't pay any tax. And there's not going to be any searches, any investigation on whether they owe taxes on that money that they're claiming that they made in the first place. It's enough to make your head explode. It's lunacy.
In order to qualify for some of these tax credits, first you need to file taxes with the IRS. So one, that's a lie. Two, in terms of what we're talking about, why do people use social security numbers and why do we say that so flippantly? Because the law demands us to. Because we can't work otherwise. And we don't, like I just mentioned, we don't qualify for social services. So I don't know if what Mr. Brown wants is for me to starve on the street or if I'm going to borrow my brother's social security number to get a job. Working, providing services for Americans.
Are you
creating economic activity for Americans.
Okay, one at a time. Captain, did you have a comment on this question? Because I want to get into.
Wow,
I
sliding under the radar there. You know, still, I'm not really familiar with the economic end. What I know is this: there is definitely a lot of money involved in this. Some immigrants come to this country and they contribute to the economy. Others are poor and they're going to take away. But that's true of anybody. What we have to decide is, as a people, this is not for me to give, you know, my opinion that we should do this or we should do that. Everybody in this room must collectively decide, look, the people that need help, how much are we willing to help? What are we willing to give? I personally have no children, but I pay taxes for schools gladly because I believe that the schools help everybody here. And I'm willing to give some of my money for that. I'm sure that there's some people in the room that don't want to give or they want to limit what they give. But we need to have a more thorough conversation about the financial impact and just total impacts of it, because what we know is that the immigrants are here, whether they're legal or not. They have not gone away in hundreds of years. We have had illegal immigration since the day this country was formed. As soon as they started to require quotas and things and close off things. So we need to deal with the reality of what we have here and what's likely to happen. You can't arrest your way out of this problem. You can't deport your way out of this problem. There's got to be a balanced approach to this. But I think we're not there yet. This is the start of that conversation.
So this might be a more technical or legal question than opinion. We're talking about people being able to get driver's licenses as of January 1st of this year, regardless of their legal status. Are they able to use that driver's license to benefit from any of these federal or state programs, Mr. Magallanes?
No, so the law specifically says that it's a driving permit. It's not a driver's license for purposes of federal identification. And anyways, even with a driver's license, you still need to present proof of legal presence and legal residency to receive most benefits, which most undocumented immigrants don't have, which is why they're getting AB60 driver's licenses at the DMV, waiting sometimes 7 hours after they drive from Lancaster, Palmo to Granada Hills.
The driver's licenses are documented on the license. It says not for federal identification purposes right on the front of the license. So they were purposely designed so that they could tell that, so those side issues I talked about a little before. Driver's licenses are strictly for driving, and it's that safety issue. It's not for identification for any other purpose.
I was thinking, let's imagine that we deport everyone, the 11 million people. Who is going to take care of our garden? Who is going to clean our houses? Who is going to take care of our mother? Who is going to cook our food when we go to a restaurant? Who is going to do the beds in the hotels? You know, we have a big dependence of the immigration, and we don't even compete. You guys don't compete with them because this is the kind of jobs that you don't want to do. And do you know, when I speak with somebody who is anti-immigration, they say, oh, and I said, but you have this lady working with you, cleaning your house. Oh, she's different. She's different. Everybody's the same. We do the jobs that you don't want to do, and we work very hard. Most of the immigrants that I know, the only undocumented, no, the only immigrants that I don't like are those that are anti-immigrant. And I see like Senator Ted Cruz and Rubio, that kind of people don't like it. But most of the people is like you guys, like us. We work hard. We are intelligent. Some of us, we came with formal education, and we are doing our best. And I think that we have to focus on what is really important. How are we going to overcome the challenges of the 21st century. And I think that President Obama is proposing a great plan of have an investment in infrastructure. How do you say infrastructure? Infrastructure. And then that is going to create a lot of jobs, and we are going to be able to be the #1 again. And we are a great country because we have people from all the countries that comes with the best of them, intelligence, innovative, that they came to look for the American dream. If you were in those places, would you do the same? To leave your family, to leave your position, everything to come for a country in which you sometimes don't feel welcome? Well, because we have entrepreneurial mentality, I believe. We are good. You just have to know us. Thank you.
So we are going to move on to children. And we're going to talk about, actually, again, I'm kind of intermixing an audience question because it's timely as we're dealing with the prepared questions. And again, I revert back to an article that appeared in the Valley Press today, excuse me. It says, White House halts immigration plans. You may have heard about the Deferred Action Program, and actually I want the panel to talk about this a little bit more because now that was put on hold, and the question that came from the audience has to do with the Texas judge ruling regarding undocumented and how it affects the Antelope Valley. Let's talk about that. Who wants to start? Well, you know what? Let me read the prepared question because it supplements or complements the audience question. What about the U.S.-born children of those immigrants who are here illegally? Do you support the DREAM Act, which gives undocumented immigrants brought as youth legal status? And again, a reference to just this week, a judge halted President Obama's executive order, Mr. Brown alluded to that earlier, to halt deportations and give millions of immigrants deferred status. Mr. Brown?
Basically, no, I do not support the DREAM Act. Again, you're rewarding illegal behavior.
Can we just clarify with the DREAM Act what your interpretation, or let's share with the audience so that we all get up to speed, because I know you're all going to start using terms like DACA, and we need to explain as we go along.
Well, the DREAM Act is for the children of that were brought here by their parents when they came here illegally, and they were born here. Correct?
I think there's a little bit of a nuance to that.
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead? Does somebody else want to explain the DREAM Act? Yeah.
I'm laughing actually because it's actually a big confusion within the undocumented community too.
Absolutely.
So I wasn't laughing derisively. I'm sorry, Mr. Brown.
Were you laughing at me, Mr.
A little bit. Well, what the DREAM Act actually is a law that was written in 2010 that was proposed in the Senate that would give people who came when they were youths, mostly against their will, like me. They told me I was going to visit them and going back to see my grandma. So it would give people like me legal status after a background check, after permanent residency for certain years, and then you would be eligible for citizenship like anyone else. Essentially what it would do, it would create a legal avenue for people who, as of right now, aren't eligible for an adjustment of status any other way. That failed, of course, in the Senate by 5 votes, all Democrats, and this is where we are now. So the DREAM Act essentially has died. Immigration reform included certain parts of the DREAM Act, and DACA was essentially modeled after the DREAM Act.
And DACA stands for?
Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So this was the administrative announcement that Obama made June 15, 2012 that gave people like me who were brought to the country under age 16, who had completed high school educations, were currently in high schools, or had completed a GED or some other form of continuing education, a work permit, and legal presence, not legal status.
So it didn't give you citizenship, it didn't give you legal status, it gave you a deferred status where it kind of left you in limbo until a permanent solution came forward.
Right. So
okay. So can we get back to Mr. Brown, and then we'll go down the panel.
As far as Obama's executive order, the Texas judge, putting the stopping it yesterday, and that's when it was supposed to roll out, putting the injunction, and that's basically to give the 26 states that are brought a lawsuit against Obama's executive amnesty, their case chance to work its way through the court system. But the biggest thing that the judge, his biggest reason for imposing the injunction was because he says, as soon as this starts, the genie's out of the bottle. It won't be able to be stopped. So he wants these 26 states to get their day in court. Where the injunction holds, I don't know. But You know, I hear, I'm sorry,
Ms. Galindo?
yes, you mentioned that, you know, people cut, it's almost, I get the impression that illegals are justifying them coming here so they provide us with low-cost jobs, like it just, I don't buy that, you know. I guess I have a problem. They left Mexico because it's so terrible. And obviously, right, they didn't come to here because they left a better place. So I don't understand this. I says, you know, they don't want to fix the problems within their own country, but they want to come here illegally and start demanding, you know, all this stuff for us to pay for. It's just.
So is illegal immigration strictly a Mexican issue?
Well, are you talking about there's illegal immigrants come here from all over the world?
Well,
I think we needed that clarification.
Yeah.
well, the good news is that undocumented immigration from Mexico has got down, really down, in the last few years. Why? Because there are no jobs here. And nobody wants to come. If there are no jobs, we have to understand the mechanics. If there is a need for people to work, they are going to not to obey the laws. Oh, let's do it like if we don't see that so many undocumented people is coming. Now we don't have that problem. Mexico is doing a little bit better with the economy is growing a little bit. And do you know, maybe then we have to think in how to regulate that people come here legally, because that is the problem. They don't come undocumented because they want. They come because they don't have the opportunity to do it in another way. There are people who have been waiting 25 years, who have parents who are American citizens, and they cannot legalize their situation. We have to do something about it. Do you know, I read a book that is named Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes.
And do you know, they move our cheese. There is not there anymore, thanks to President Bush, thanks to the transnationals that they move the capital wherever they need. Thanks to the technology, they move our cheese. We have to find another way to get that cheese.
I think we call that queso.
Queso.
Cheese. Okay. Mr. Magallon, you had a comment, and then I'm going to follow up with an audience question.
Well, like I mentioned, I work with the Filipino Workers Center, serving the Filipino community in historic Filipino town in Los Angeles. And actually, the reasons most Filipinos immigrate to the United States is actually very similar to the reasons my family left. There's no real shock that the most undocumented immigrants in this country come from the most globalized and open economies in the world. When you go through process of globalization, whether it's Mexico, India, China, the Philippines, or South Korea, there's people whose jobs are phased out. NAFTA destroyed the Mexican agricultural economy because it destroyed subsidies that kept people at home. When people cross the border to the United States, they don't just come for jobs, they come out of necessity. And it was when the border laws changed, where you couldn't just go back after, let's say, working here for a season, making money, keeping yourself safe. People had to stay here. That's when you create undocumented migration, when you restrict movement across the borders. Capital moves by the billions. Container ships bring products across the ports and across the border by the billions of tons every day. But it takes longer than the average human lifetime for a person who does not have a US citizen, partner, spouse, parent, or child to come to the United States. It doesn't make sense.
And remind us, NAFTA in the 90s is the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Right, which reduced tariffs between Canada, the United States, and Mexico. It also had terrible effects on the economy of Mexico in terms of what it did to the currency. The reason I came to this country is I actually come from a middle-class family. My grandmother was a nurse. My cousins were doctors, lawyers, professionals in the government. And after about a week, their savings had gone maybe like 30%. They were worth a third of what they were worth a week before. That economic instability is what brought us forward. We weren't looking for jobs, we were looking to survive.
Captain Ford, you had a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to get back to the actual question here.
We're going off on tangents a little bit. My bad.
No, this is actually, yeah. U.S.-born children of illegal immigrants are U.S. citizens, period. No doubt about it, and they have all the rights and privileges of any other citizen, and I support that. That's absolutely the law of the land. The second thing, the DREAM Act is for those children that were brought across by their parents and they had no say-so. One of the things that we do in law is when we attribute a crime to someone, they have to have the ability to form that specific intent. And crossing the border illegally is a crime. You're correct, Mr. Brown. But those children didn't have a choice. They were brought along. I don't think we can hold them responsible or should hold them responsible for decisions that their parents made. That's a completely separate issue. The parents have to be dealt with for what they did, but the children were brought along. You can't blame a 4-year-old that was brought here by his parents for being here. I think that's not right.
So should we not revisit the sins of the parents on the children?
And that's my opinion, yes.
Well, here's a legal question.
Okay.
How many years?
I just
Yeah.
have, well, real quick, as far as, it sort of relates back to Obama's executive amnesty. This came out from the Center for Immigration Studies recently, and a lot of people don't know this. This was just in the news. A thorough analysis of government data revealed that the Obama administration has issued 5.5 more million work permits than were allowed under law between 2009 and 2014. This just came out about a week ago. This is on top of the 5 million that he wants under this amnesty that just got the injunction to stop it temporarily.
Ms. Galindo has a comment, follow-up?
Yeah, do you know why President Obama is doing this executive action? Because, do you know why? Because the Congress refused to an immigration reform. And we have to do something. 11 million people is here, and there is no worse way to approach the problem than doing nothing. We have to do something, and there is no proposal for the Republican Party that I see. We were going to pass an immigration reform that was not really good for the people, because I think since 1975, the period to wait with citizenship was to obtain a citizenship was 5 years of residence. In this new proposal for becoming a citizen in the immigration reform proposal, they were saying that they have to wait 13 years, that they were going to be penalized with losing all the Social Security money, and nobody wants to approve that law. This is why President Obama is doing something, because we have to do something to resolve the problem.
So here are two very technical and legal questions that I'm hoping maybe just one or two of you will answer very quickly. How many years does it take from start to finish to get legal immigration status? That came from one of our audience members. You started to touch on that a little
Yeah,
bit.
do you know, when you come, to come here, you have to wait several years, sometimes 2 or 3, since you make the application to be.
So is that dependent on, different countries have different